Hey guys, welcome back to my competitive TF2 guide. Today's map is CP Sunshine and it's a pretty cool map. So yeah, I'm just gonna jump into the game here and we're gonna talk about the map and why it's quite unique. So jump here into the map, and what you can notice is that it's quite similar to CP Process because you have basically two flanks. You have the cafe and you have the banana. At least we call it banana in German. I don't know what the international call is, but you have those two areas. And yeah, you can wrap around the enemy from this, and this is really important. On maps like CP Badlands, you don't even have that option. You only have the resub area, and it's quite hard to flank. And this, you have at least one big open area, and then another, like a little smaller area to get to second or to mid. Depends on where your team is at the moment. And yeah, you always have to keep that in mind, because there's always two ways the enemy can get behind you, and yeah, that's the most important thing about this map. So let's just jump into the overview here. Okay. And yeah, I'm gonna talk you through an aggressive mid hold right here. As always, we're gonna start off with the aggressive mid hold. And how do you hold that? Everyone is alive, and you have your pocket on this little house. There's no really great high ground close to the choke, so you just take that one. At least it gives you a little bit of a spam angle into the choke. You can also help into banana, and you can also spam to cafe, so that's like a really good position for your pocket. You have your dimmerman close in choke as well. The dimmerman should always be close to your medic, so if the enemy just ubers in, you can at least pop your, you can at least uber your dimmerman, and yeah. So it's important to have some classes close to your medic. You have what you can notice is that you have only one class for each particular flank side. So you have your roamer on the little house thingy. You don't see it on the picture. I can show you after this in the game. He just sits there and he can just watch into banana and spot every guy running through, and then you have your flank scout holding this house, and he can just watch into cafe and tell your team when the enemy comes. And yeah, it's really important that you talk to your team if you are on the flank, because you don't have help for like for a little while. So if the enemy just rushes through, you don't gonna get help. Maybe a little bit spam from the choke, but there's no one close by. So just always tell your team, and then you rotate. Every time you have a map where there is two flanks, or like a big flank, rotation becomes really important. So let's say the enemy comes through cafe. What do? I think the best way to hold it is that your demoman just plays choke defensively, but he's still holding it, and he maybe spams some pipes into cafe if there's a lot of people there, and then your pocket rotates. He can jump up onto this roof. He can even just jump close just to get some rockets in, and I think the enemy shouldn't cross the exit of this cafe. Like, they should at least use Uber right here, and then you can you have a better situation. You have your own Uber ready, and yeah, you just use that to push the enemy back. The same thing goes for the banana. You have your roamer here spotting the guys in banana. He can spam like 3 or 4 rockets depending how close they are, and then you get just your pocket scout in here. If he has a good heal, he can just help there. You can even rotate your pocket in there, and maybe you even rotate the medic in there if you know that the enemy medic comes from this side, and you just go for heavy heals on this side. So yeah, you always want to rotate with your pocket and maybe your pocket scout. And yeah, I think that's like the most important thing to this hold. Just always be ready, have good team communication, and rotate to the side where the enemy comes from. And the other sides, you always have to watch them. So, you know, that's why I told you that the demo man has to watch choke, but just do it defensively, because sometimes they come through with like 2 classes, and yeah, they catch you off guard, so be aware of that, and try to position yourself around the enemy team. And yeah, I think that's a great hold. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump into the game here. Okay, so yeah, the first thing I can show you on the overview is this spot. So this is where your Roma sits, and as you can see, you can just watch deep into the banana. Like sometimes you have a soldier like jumping through this or over this. He can surprise you a little bit, but it shouldn't be a big problem. And you just spot the guys, you spam a little bit, you just get your buff, and your pocket or your scout helps you, or even your demo man. And as I said, this position for your pocket, you can spam this, you can spam this, you can spam this. And if you know the enemy comes from cafe, you can just jump up here, you know, take this high ground. You can even, if you know you can't really get heals anymore, you can go up here for some reason. I don't really like that, but at least it's an option. And then you have this side as well. It's not the greatest side because you have this thing in your way. And yeah, I think you should try to take this house, but just make it hard for the enemy to come in. Okay, and your medic should always be close to this house. So you can even sit up here, I think. Oh yeah, I disabled my script here so hard. You can just sit up here, and you have a little bit of high ground. And as I told you on the process guide, you always want to have some sort of building around you as a medic, because you can use it for your movement. Because if the soldier tries to bomb you from choke, you might think this is a bad thing that you're close to this house because he just jumps on it, but don't forget that you have your own pocket here, and he basically contests this area. So the enemy soldier has two options. He even jumps over this and just goes directly for the medic, or he tries to contest the soldier up here. So yeah, just be aware of that. See the soldier, you can just drop down here, and then you can fool him by running around and he doesn't even see you, or you can go from the left side. And yeah, I think this is a great way to dodge roaming soldiers coming in through choke or banana. Okay, let's jump back into the guide here. I think we talked this through, so let me switch to the defensive hold. Alright, so this is the defensive hold. I think this is a great way to hold it if you have disadvantage in Über or in numbers. And as you can see, you take a lot of space on high ground. So you have your scout close. This his only job is to spot people. So if they're coming through choke, or they're coming through cafe, he can see through the choke into the cafe. So you can see if the enemy medic is coming through cafe. You can just tell that to your team. So all this guy does is basically he's a little bit annoying, and then he gives information. You have your Roma up here. It's a really great spam spot. So if the medic comes through this, he's gonna have a really hard time. You have your pocket scout up here. It doesn't really matter where he is. He can like sit on this side maybe, but this is just high ground. And always keep in mind that if the enemy comes in, and you just, let's say, like you're doing the worst possible defensive hold. Everyone is in choke on low ground, and yeah. What does it mean for the enemy team? They can just communicate that everyone is in choke on low ground, and they just run in. They don't have a hard time at all. So if you take high ground, even if you don't have great heals, even if you don't have Über, you make it much harder for the enemy team, because they have to spot like 5 different people, and they have to contest all the buildings right here. So this should give you a lot of time. Even if you just run out afterwards, it gives you a lot of time to build your Über meanwhile. And yeah, the second thing is that you sit here with your medic. It's really important that you sit in close to cafe, because you don't want to sit in choke. They can just chase you through, because it's an open area, and the same reason goes for the banana. It's also very open, very long, and they can just chase you down. So always take the house exit, and take the demo man or the soldier with you. Probably the demo man, because the soldier is busy trying to fight the enemy, and you don't really want to get him off this house if he doesn't have to. So I think that's like the best possible way to hold it, just to get some time. And then you rotate back onto second, and you go from there. Maybe you re-push the middle, or yeah, it really depends on the Über situation. Okay. Yeah, this is a really simple hold. it's really important that you are in cafe. Don't go towards banana, don't go towards choke as a medic. Always use this exit. You should be safe there. Okay. Yeah, this was really simple. So let's jump onto the second point. Okay. So how do you hold the second point aggressively? You want to position your medic up on this high ground. You don't want to sit down here because you just want to go a little bit closer to the enemy, and it's much easier to uber your classes here if you don't, if you're just sitting on lower ground. It's really sometimes it's really tough to go to uber your pocket or your doorman because you have to run up these stairs. You know, pockets and scouts, you can just jump up here and you have to run up these stairs, and it actually takes quite long if you just drop down. So always use the high ground here. You have your pocket and your doorman close by. They can spam the cafe and the choke area, and you have one scout a little bit closer. All he does is basically just spotting. He can spot a little bit deeper into the cafe. He can just kind of watch into the middle point from the choke through this fence, and yeah, just get the information where the enemy medic is, and then you focus that area really hard. And then you have your flank, you have your banana. You can position your roaming soldier on the fence. It's a really high spot, so the enemy should have a hard time spamming you right there, and you can spot through the entire banana basically, and then you have one scout helping him. But always keep in mind that you don't get heals on this side. So if they commit on the banana, you might just want to spam and get out, and then your heavy classes with heals have to help. So you spam your 4 rockets and maybe you take like 60 or 80 damage, then you just back off. You either go back to your medic or you go into the lobby and get the health back. And yeah, always tell your team if the enemy comes from that. So yeah, probably the best way to push on second is the banana, because there's never going to be heals on this side, so you never actually see a medic on the left side. Because if you hold on left side, you're going to be completely open towards cafe. They can just get control of this area and you're fucked. So just always be aware that the enemy probably comes from this side. Okay, and now the defensive hold. There we go. The defensive hold is a little bit different. So you have your medic on lower ground this time. You always want to get out in a defensive hold, and you can do this by using 2 ways. You can either go through this gate, through this shutter door, and get to the health pack, or you can just drop into the lower area and let's call this tunnel. So let's say you just go into the tunnel and you have your demo man close by. So the biggest mistake I always see in lower skilled matches is that the pocket just keeps on running with a medic. And often it's really great if you have your pocket close by, because he can just defend you against all kinds of threats. But in a defensive hold, all you want to do is to make it hard for the enemy. You know, you want to get some time so you can build your own Uber meanwhile, or you want to get a frag or something. But if you just sit down here with your soldier won't do anything. So just get another class with you, get your Demoman. The Demoman can still put up a sticky trap. He can detonate it from everywhere he is. And yeah, it's much better to have a Demoman or scout with you in this situation than a soldier, because you always want to have the soldier rocket spam. So that's why you notice that often in defensive holds I have this line between medics and demomans, or medics and scouts, and yeah, always get out with them because you want to keep building your Uber. And the flank is basically the same. You have your soldier up here, it's just a great spot, always use it if you can, and then you have your scout down here just helping the soldier a little bit. You have your pocket scout in the front just spotting people, and your soldier on the high ground. He can even sit on the point so he can spam choke more effectively. It depends on playstyle, I guess, but it's really important that you have someone with your medic to get out. Often I noticed is that if you hold this point defensively, you basically have no chance to contest it at all. So all you want to do is just make it hard for the enemy and get out. It's kind of like Badlands, where you, if the enemy just comes through choke and gets control of Spire, you can't really do anything anymore if you're in a disadvantage. Even if you have Ubers and the enemy is on Spire, you have a really hard time contesting that, because they can just cap it. And the same thing goes for this. You always want to You know, if you lose the close choke areas, banana, choke, or cafe, just get out. Because all you can do is maybe like get a few seconds off the clock, get a little bit more percentages on your medic, but that's it. Okay, so let's just jump onto the last hold here. Alright, this is the classic way to hold Sunshine last. You have your medic up on the left side with your pocket. Your pocket can just sit on this slope, or you can sit on this fence. You can't really see at the moment. I'm going to show you afterwards. He's just in control of this, let's call it riverside area, and you have your scout close by. This scout doesn't really have he doesn't really have a job right now, but at least he takes some heals, because if you only heal your pocket, you might get into a really big health disadvantage compared to your enemy team. So just get some health on this scout, and he can just spam in Riverside. He can spam lower. He can just rotate after getting the buff. So have someone close to your medic as well. But he can even go off class. He can go sniper. He can go for engineer. You know, yeah. Don't just sit here as a scout and don't do anything. At least run around, get some information, or go for another class. Then you have your flank, kinda. You have your demo man sitting far back. As always, there's quite a big distance between the medic and the demo man, so you always want to have the option to go into the spawn to get health and to be safe. So don't go too closely, because often the enemy ubers through lower, or they uber through a lobby right here, and then if you're too closely, they can sometimes catch you with like a scout uber. You have this scout sitting on these barrels. He just spots into the lobby, so he spots for the demo man. If there's if someone comes through this, he can even put up a sticky trap here or in lower. So this area, even though there's no heals on this side, should be safe. You know, you basically shouldn't die on this side. All you do is spot, spam, and then rotate through spawn, and your pocket can help if no one comes from this. So yeah, that's your basic hold. And you have your Roma obviously holding the lower area. He can just sit on this ledge. He can even sit up on the point, and yeah, it's just a really, really strong hold. If the enemy doesn't have uber advantage or an advantage in numbers, you shouldn't have a hard time holding this. Okay. Yeah, let me show you the defensive hold. So this is my favorite way of holding it defensively. But I have to say, never do this if you don't have to. You know, if you have everyone alive, if you have at least not 100% disadvantage, do the other hold I told you before, because this one has a few problems. You notice that the medic is not on Riverside this time. He's basically next to the spawn area, and what this does is that he gives more health to the people holding the point. So probably the enemy has like a big pick if you're holding like this, or they have uber advantage, and they just, you know, that they're gonna come towards the point. So all you want to do is use the spawn, rotate through the spawn with these three classes. So basically have them fully buffed. You know, you can put up a heavy here. This can also be a pocket scout, or you have an engineer, but you won't have time with that probably. So just put your heals here, spam the entrances where the medic comes from, and then rotate through spawn as they approach you. And you might think, why don't you do this from this side? You know, you could do the same thing. You can just put up your heals here and then wait for the enemy to come in. But the thing behind this is, if the enemy won't get any kills, they're gonna focus on the point, you know. If they see 3 guys just running into the spawn, they're gonna just focus the point, because they know they can't get any kills. So always have stickies on the point. It's really, really, really important. Have stickies on the point so that the scouts can't start capping the point, and then you rotate. Then you get your heals, then you try to build your Uber. You just jump with your soldiers towards the point. You have this guy here just to spot if they come from lobby, and yeah, just use the rotation through spawn. It's a little bit like CP process last, you know. You have these 2 entrances to your spawn, but the spawn is not that effective because it takes a little bit longer to get to the health packs in the spawn, you know, the thingy to get your health and ammo. And yeah, this is a really tough hold. you're gonna have big troubles holding this way. So don't do it if you don't have to. Okay, let me jump back into the game. Gonna show you some tricks and stuff like that. So as I told you, you're holding like this, so your medic is up here and the position for the soldier is up here. Just telling you this because you couldn't see it on the overview. This is like a good spot. The enemy has to come around the corner, and then you have a great spam angle, and the soldier or whatever, he can't spam you. There's no wall behind you or something, so he can't spam behind you. He has to hit this fence or direct into your face. And it's pretty even though the enemy has higher ground, it shouldn't be too hard holding this. You can even put up a sticky trap up here, and if you know the enemy comes from this side, from the other side, you might just wanna rotate your medic, and then the soldier can flank through lobby. He can just sit here, try to pick off a scout, and yeah, this is really easy to hold. This side is a little bit more problematic, so often, you know, either you have teams Ubering through this using the high ground. They probably try to push you back here, and then they don't even Uber at all. They just wait, like process right side push, and Uber really late, and use this high ground to push towards the point. So be aware of that. Always rotate if you know that there's like 3 people or 4 people coming from this side, and then you have the left side push. This is really tough because you have to get through this. Your soldiers just can't jump. You know, this doesn't really apply to a soldier here. It's a little bit of a clusterfuck. There's so much props right here. There could be people hiding in this. You can't jump this because there's a roof for some reason in this map. I think this last point is really badly designed, and you can, as a defensive side, you can really abuse that. You can use the fact that soldiers can't really get to you if you're holding like this. You always have your spawn close by, so get in here. Yeah, as I said, it takes a while to get to the thingy here and get back out again, so keep that in mind. And just abuse all the props that there are on this side, you know, this thingy, that thingy, everything. There's so much here. You even have this big thing, I don't even know what that is supposed to be, but yeah, you have that as well. And yeah, okay, so and then you have your lower push. Sometimes the enemy just caps the second point, and then they know that there's a sticky trap somewhere in the lobby, or that there's aggressive lobby hold for some reason. Then you just drop down here, run through this, and you know, you try not to show yourself. So you might go on the right side here, and then you have your 2 soldiers just jumping in, trying to pick off this guy. And this is why I told you that the demo man has to sit far back, so that he won't just get rushed from lower. You know, soldiers have a hard time bombing from this. They can even do this by wall jumping from here, but you should spot them really early, so your demo man can just jump back. But sometimes if the enemy comes through this, you won't really notice as the defensive team, and they just double jump your demo man, and this can be a big problem, because even if you think you're safe here, but then the soldier gets a good rocket off, and you just get blasted against this wall or this, and suddenly you're dead. You don't get Uber because your medic is on that side, and yeah, so hold it really defensively. I like to actually hold it like from this angle, so you have your sticky trap up there, you have your spam angle up here, and if as soon as you see someone and they start to focus you, you can just run into the spawn, and yeah, then you have to decide if you want to rotate to the left side or just fake them and go to the right side again. But yeah, always use that safe area you have here. Okay, and always, you know, as always, your Roma can either sit up here, so he's a little bit closer. This position is much better if your enemy has an advantage, because if your enemy has an Uber advantage, you wanna create uneven fights, you know. Your medic and your pocket are holding up here, and you know the Uber comes through this, so they can spam them a little, you know, they can force the Uber maybe, but that's it. They won't get a kill or something. So what you have to do on the flank in that scenario is you have to get a kill, because if you don't get a kill somewhere, they just get into the point with the Uber, they have more heals than you, and they're just gonna cap it in the end. So if you have a disadvantage, just hold it close. And sometimes you have like one guy not really paying attention, and he just lurks from down here, and you just jump him as a soldier, you know, and shoot 2 or 3 rockets in his face. You can do the same thing on this side. You can just hide on this barrel maybe, you know, and if you have a scout coming in, you just kill him. But yeah, the guys from up there can spot you more easily, and if you're holding like this, you know, you actually have like cover from this side, so they won't really spot you if the Uber comes from this side, and you just try to get a pick here with your scout and your soldier. And if the Uber is even, you might want to just hold up here, because if the enemy knows that you like to hold this position, they might just come around the corner and double spam this with like 2 soldiers, and suddenly you're dead. So just go use the high ground. You're really safe up here. You have a great spam angle to not really to this side, but to lower area and the lobby left entrance. So yeah, always switch things up. Okay, Sniper is also a really effective class on this map, because there is some great sidelines. First of all, you can just sit, you know, just next to the spawn, and you always get free shots off. So if they come through, it's basically the same thing as on CP Process. Sometimes the enemy comes through the right side, you know, from their perspective, like this entrance, and all they do is just run in, push the medic back here, and they Uber really late. So if you have a sniper here, suddenly the enemy team is in really big danger, because you can always drop the medic with a headshot. And yeah, you deny that slow push kind of with like a sniper. Even if you don't hit shots, they will get nervous, and they, you know, at some point they're gonna just pop the Uber, even though there's no heavy classes close to them. So I really like Sniper holding just far back from this. And if the enemy Ubers, just go back towards Scout. Yeah. We haven't really talked about this lobby area. This lobby area is quite interesting, because it's so clustered. Like, there's so many stairs here. Look at this. Like, this is kind of crazy for a competitive map to have this sort of staircase. I think it's completely unique. You don't see that on any other map, and yeah, that's why I like to peek around as a soldier here. So sometimes both teams don't have Uber yet. The enemy defensive team is just building it, and they're just sitting down here. So they have their medic here, you know, they're healing a guy here, they're healing a guy here, someone is watching the lower, and yeah, sometimes you can just use that and just peek around this with your demo man and your soldier, and you have a great spam angle. If someone is close, you can just spam them back with your big buff, and then you spam the medic, and suddenly the medic is in danger, because there could always be a guy like spamming from this side. And yeah, so a lot of times when we started to play this map, you know, this is a new map. I think we played it for like 2 seasons. No one knew how to hold everything, and yeah, we kind of sucked on that map. So it happened quite often that just people run into this lobby, and you have to keep in mind that like they're holding the last. On every other map you don't see that. People won't just run into you, but on this map suddenly people just came up here if you don't hold this, and just use that high ground to spam. So always keep in mind, if you don't have anyone holding this close, that they can just jump you, or even a soldier can try to force you by wall jumping into the lower area of this lobby. Yeah, it can be quite a death trap sometimes. Okay, so I think we covered all the holds, at least defensive and aggressive holds, on all the points. There's one more thing I like to tell you, because this is like a strat we used to do, and I haven't seen any other team using this, and it's super effective. Like, this is really, really great. A friend of mine actually came up with this. His name is Thomas J, and I'm gonna tell you what this is about. So let's say the enemy team is on last, but they have 100% Uber advantage. So you know that they have to push at some point. Maybe you're leading like 1-0 and there's like 10 minutes left on the clock. They have 100% Uber advantage, so you know the enemy basically gonna push the second point. What you wanna do? You're probably gonna think that you wanna hold from this side, because you have high ground here. You can make it really tough for the enemy to run through this, or even through this. But that's actually not what you wanna do. What you want to do is you go over here with your entire team. Like, actually everybody of your team is sitting here. You can have one scout sitting up here just to distract a little bit, so it won't be super obvious, because some teams might know this. So you might have one scout here just holding it super defensively. You're like, you know the Uber is gonna come in. All you do is spot people and run back. And then you have 5 people over here. And suddenly the enemy team has 2 options. They either go for the cap or they hold off this side. Because if they go for the cap, you know, they're just gonna jump up here and hold this. You just run into the lobby. You know, you just go in into the lobby and you can push through the lower. Or you can even take the staircase and go upper right. And yeah, because the last point caps much faster than the second point, the enemy has to come back. So you always can basically dodge that second push if you're holding it on the right side, because it's so wide. Like, look at that distance from that shutter gate to this banana area. You know, this, you can really make use of this entrance and this entrance. You don't really find it useful like just playing the map, holding the second point against the mid hold, but suddenly if the enemy wants to push from the last, this gets like super efficient for your last push. You just get through and go onto the last. And if you know this scout spots the enemy Ubering through, so he runs back, he sits here or something, he's not dying. Basically what he has to do is just tell your team what the enemy is doing. Are they committing to the point? Are they actually just going for the point? Or are they running back into lobby? You know, if the enemy is just seeing you over there and the Uber and they decide to not cap the point, they're gonna try to catch you here. All you have to do on this side is just go back. You just have to react to your enemy's reaction, kinda, you know? Just if they go back, you go back as well. And suddenly you have more time to build your Uber, you're gonna have your Uber, and after that you can get control of lobby area and try to push the last point. But this is super effective, and this is something you can't really use on any other map, because there is no entrance like this close to the flank, you know, just get into last. Alright. Okay, so yeah, I talked quite a lot here. I think we covered everything. As I said, we only played this map for like 2 seasons, so we're also kind of sucky on that. And but it's some basic stuff, some good holds. All you have to do is basically communicate with your team how to hold specific points, and you should be fine. Like enemy team's gonna struggle with this map as well. You know, it's not CP Badlands you're playing for 7 years or whatnot. It's actually CP Sunshine, and yeah. You should always have a strategic advantage over your team if you just talk this through. Alright guys, yeah, I had fun with this series. This is going to be the last video of the competitive TF2 guide I did for the 60s maps. So if you want me to do a Highlander guide, I can do this as well. Maybe I can even get some Highlander players doing it for me. So just tell me in the comments, and have a nice day. See ya.